Hunterace versus Zhym, and Hunterace's priest has been banned out. So honestly, solid. Is that a victory for Hunterace? You know, has his priest like not won a round, but do you know what I mean? Like done its job, so to speak.
Yeah, sort of. If it gets banned, then it's a victory. Is narrative is kind of overplayed and not 100% accurate, just because of various like lineup construction reasons. But but essentially, yes, if you get to play with your other decks and your kind of weird off the wall deck is getting banned out, then you kind of have to be happy with the way you put together your lineup.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, right? If it was Demon Hunter getting banned, well, it's like, well, not really. Everyone's going to bring it if people ban it because it's strong. But because Hunterace is, one of the few players bringing Priest and his interesting build as well of his ramp Priest, so to speak, then I think it, like you just said, if your awkward, strange off the wall deck is getting just pulled out, then I'm okay playing like 3 core strong meta decks. Like especially if I'm Hunterace, it seems pretty good. But Zhym,
right,
no pushover himself, but I think this is going to be the first point where a lot of viewers actually see Zhym. This is his first time in Grandmasters, going to be playing it out against one of the greats right now.
Yeah, it's definitely the proving ground that he wants to be in, right? Like every player that's grinding through the Masters Tour circuit right now and trying to become a Grandmaster, most of them will see themselves on this level. They'll be looking to test themselves against players of this caliber week in, week out. And, that might sound like cliche and just like kind of a corny thing that I'm just saying, but honestly, the players who had to play the Swiss throughout the last couple of days, so essentially every Grandmaster that you're seeing today, tomorrow, plus all the ones that you don't, they've all been tweeting or talking about on stream how exhausting it is to play against that caliber of player over and over and over again for multiple hours, and how different it is from playing ladder. So this idea of like a top level of Hearthstone is a very, very real thing that these players do want to achieve, and we now get to see whether Zhym belongs here.
Yeah, and this is the real trick as well. Honestly, I believe a lot of the time of being good at the game isn't doing the best plays all the time, but it's making the least mistakes when it counts.
Sure.
And I believe that players like Hunterace do not mess up that often, and if you're against him and you mess up, it's likely you're going to take the loss there. But let's get into it. It's game number 1 between Zhym and Hunterace. The loser is done for the weekend, and that is not a good thing. It means they get less points, whereas the winner will go on to face Tice for that final spot in the top 2 of the group. Let's get into it. Warlock versus Druid. And how favored do you think the Druid is here, if at all? Because I feel like when I've played this matchup as Druid, the Warlock just has an unlimited amount of AoE and just ruins my board.
An unlimited amount of AoE.
It's what it feels like, at least.
How many AoE cards would you call an unlimited amount of AoE?
Versus me, often probably like 2 or something, because I managed to make 2 boards and then die normally. But yeah, anything past 3, I would say. Or at least they have AoE that deals with the board, is the problem.
I'm going to surprise you here, Raven. We seem to have a discrepancy here on Warlock matchups, because I actually think the Druid is favored in this matchup.
Oof, okay. Let me triple check the Warlock list before I make too strong a statement here. Let me see if he has unlimited removals. Let me have a look. He appears to only have 30 cards in his deck, so therefore, I can't commit to this statement. But anyway, while I'm talking absolute rubbish,
I will say
Kel'Thas is on the board.
It is on the board, yeah, but I will say, I think if you're playing 1 or 0 Soul of the Forest, then you're probably not favoured against Warlock.
Agreed.
If you're playing 2, then you have a much better chance. Yep. So with this list, he is probably something more like the region of 45% against Warlock, like in this actual one example we have in front of us.
Kel'Thas is on the board, though, and that's some cards.
And really broken things are happening.
But this is the trick, right? Here, I mean, there isn't, but if there was, like a Plague of Flames, just gone. It's just gone, and this is what I mean, where it feels like the removal just
gone.
Never ends.
You just can't find it anymore. But you've just gone.
I've got played Kel'Thas. I've made this sick board. Oh wait, you played a 1 mana card. Now they're all gone. It's like,
and it's gone.
Yeah, just Thanos snaps. It's not even 50%. It's everything. Now, Hunterace doesn't have access to this, but the Morag Artificer along with Nether Breath is pretty chunky, at least to deal with numero uno threat, which is the Kel'Thas. And I say that's the main threat with a complete nod to Hunterace's currently 100% health. And Sol stopped speaking to me. Must be too busy. So I'll continue. Zhym does have access to a decent chunk of card draw here.
Sorry, I'm back. I accidentally hit mute for a second.
Oh, so you were
a
speaking.
delightful time without me.
No, I was actually just about to yes, finally I can just chill and cast some Hearthstone on my own.
Yeah.
No, sorry. Okay,
no, sorry, I am back to ruin your day yet again.
I'm used to it. Don't you worry, mate. Okay, so I'll rewind. What were you saying, Sol, or trying to say?
Oh, it's not important. This turn's way more important than anything I had to say last turn. Don't worry about it.
Okay, well, Zhym going to be pushing a ton of damage. I didn't actually do the maths, but I'm guessing it's not lethal. 30 health. I'd hope not.
Not even close, Raven.
But it is a settle.
16
and
could go first.
You know what? What really is pretty good versus Netherwing?
Oh, the rain of fire off the top. Oh my goodness, Raven, hold me.
That would be irresponsible, Sol. But
that's true. Good point.
Hunterace had to ruin what I was saying with his insane top deck. But the 4 health from Zhym there was very important because it dodged Netherwing. Unfortunately for Zhym, the Rain of Fire was picked up. The Netherwing had his mate to help him out, and the board was cleared. But Zhym comes back, and this right now is why I value double Soul of the Forest if I'm playing this list, mainly on ladder, of course, because there's a lot of Warlocks, and this is so much harder to deal with for a Warlock than a 2/2 board.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you in this matchup. I said it at the start. I think Soul of the Forest is the biggest card in this matchup that potentially impacts win rate because you do just build these boards that can't necessarily be answered. I do think it does have huge potential to be dead card in other matchups, though, and I understand why people don't want to play too many of them. Essentially, any card you can put in your deck that is a board in a can is never going to be dead to an extent because you can always just pop open that can and you've got a board, whereas Soul of the Forest actually requires setup to go alongside with it, right? Which is the problem that you run into.
Yeah, and then someone smarter than me will probably end up just doing the maths and saying, do I make a board often enough to warrant 2 Soul of the Forest? You know what I mean? Like, is the board creation consistent with X to make Soul of the Forest times 2 worth? Well, that's going to be a Savage Roar, and that is going to be a very quick game going to Zhym, as Zhym strikes back 1-0 for him against Hunterace. Great start to the series for him, and a pretty straightforward one at that.
Yeah, very, very clean win. I think early Hearthstone, like I said, I think, average list versus average list, maybe that's like 45% for the Druid. But I think, different techs in that it doesn't take much of a deviation from like a standard list for the Druid to become favored, in my opinion. And that also means that it doesn't take much of a deviation in draws for it to be, a positive outcome for the Druid, as you saw there. Just early Hearthstone pressure from Zhym. And Hunterace was just always scrambling. He got one really lucky top deck to get his way out of it, with the Rain of Fire and the Crazed Netherwing, but he needed much, much more than that to compete with the hits that were coming through. And
something I've noted just off, the few matches we've cast so far today is that I feel like Hearthstone has been coming down earlier than I would expect it to. And I don't know if that's on purpose, coincidence, the way you should play or not yet, because the sample size just isn't there for me. But I feel like we've seen Hearthstone almost just slammed, like not just on its own to do nothing, but it feels like it comes down almost as soon as it's drawn every single game 6, or even pretty soon after, even if it's just for one rotation of spells. Whereas I feel like maybe myself and maybe others are like, right, for Hearthstone I want like 2 rotations of spells to just win the game. Maybe that's too greedy.
That does sound pretty greedy. I think what we've seen is a lot of lineups where like the Hearthstone has been in the hand early with Overflow, for example.
Right.
I think like if you can just get off Overflow with your Hearthstone, that's probably enough to just be going off with, because you do obviously then have the opportunity for your Overflow to line you up a second cycle for the Hearthstone immediately.
Yeah.
So I think if you have those 2 in combination, you can just rip it early, which is what we've been seeing from a lot of players. But it's a really, really fun card to play with, and I am like a little bit sad that it's getting nerfed because I think it's kind of difficult to use both. Shut up, all right? Both mechanically and strategically, I think it's kind of a difficult card to use.
Right.
So it's the kind of card that I, would like to see more of in the game. But they do still have to be at a healthy power level, right? Which I don't think Hearthstone is at right now.
That is important. But what is also important that we go to a break now and again, and now is the time. We're going to go to a short one while we get ready for the next game between Zhym and Hunterace. Zhym currently leading. Let's find out if he can take it after this. We are back and ready to go to continue the matchup between Zhym and Hunterace. Zhym taking a good win there with the Druid pretty early on, getting that Hearthstone down, a theme we might not continue to see going forward, as I'm sure you've read the nerfs by now, but we will see a little bit later on. But for now in this matchup, Sottle, Zhym, he has his No Hands Warrior and his Demon Hunter against Hunterace's lineup of a Warrior, Warlock, and Demon Hunter himself. Very similar, but with this Druid going in instead of the Demon Hunter. And just a note, Hunterace's Priest is banned out, so we'll not see his Ramp Priest, which is Res Priest with Mana Sabers. Just to save any confusion. Oh, a new archetype. No, it's not. It's Res Priest with Mana Sabers.
Just realized that I'm muted. Apologies. Yes, I've just unmuted. I was just saying, I'm sorry, I'm sad that we don't get to see more of Hunterace's Priest, because you start to see the game plan come together with why he calls it a ramp deck, essentially. We saw like the Grave Rune and the copy effect being used to actually get multiple Mana Sabers, and then he actually did have infinite mana. So yeah, it's pretty strong.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, but unfortunately we won't see it again, at least in this series. But let's get into it. Zhym currently leading 1-0 over Hunterace on his Warrior, and now Hunterace is going on this Warlock, which is your fairly typical Galakrond Warlock, a couple of extra removal tools than you might be used to seeing on ladder, if you've been running into it a little bit there. But overall, the gist is the same. But we'll get to see now. Last time we saw this matchup earlier on, the Warlock just kind of got steamrolled, right? So we'll see if Zhym can make that happen again.
Yeah, it was down to like a sticky board opener from the Warrior though, which based on that mulligan Zhym does not have quite yet. Combination of like egg in the opener plus rampage was just very, very difficult to deal with. Zhym is just a little bit slower to get started than that, it's going to look like. But he does have that crucial Battle Rage in hand already, which is by far and away, I think, the most important card in the deck.
Yeah, and I wonder how much the Frozen Shadow Weaver is going to come into play. It's a card I slated early on. I felt like it just must be powerful. A 3-mana 4/3 that freezes just seems very good, especially as soon as everyone realized what Demon Hunter was like. But I don't think it's really caught on as much as I thought it would. But at least in Hunterace's list, it could do some, at least, damage reduction here, as there are not only plenty of weapons, but plenty of, like, for example, Rampage minions or Brutes that he could just freeze out and gain himself a little bit of time.
Right. Yeah, it certainly has its utility, but I think it does still fall firmly into the world of a tech card, which you have to be very, very careful of which tech cards that you are playing in your deck and whether they're appropriate for the metagame that you're dealing with. I think, cards can transcend that, where, for example, like Bad Luck Albatross, at the point now where before it's getting nerfed, it's kind of transcended being a tech card, and it's just kind of good enough to be in a lot of decks, yeah.
We'll see what happens here, though. There is the weapon break with the Acidic Swamp Ooze that Hunterace has available to him. It does leave a bit of his turn left to be desired. He could use Mortal Coil instead, or as well, sorry, and trade him with the Tolve, as well as removing the weapon and just tell Zhym he's not allowed stuff on board or in hand. Or he could just use the Devoted Maniac and just let Zhym swing again. Looks like he's going to do the removal. Maybe he could freeze this turn to make it smooth out a bit. Yeah, maybe this is just better, right? Yeah, just spend the right amount of mana you can probably use next turn.
Yep.
And now I think we're going to have to see Zhym. This might be a bit early to call, but I think it's true. We're going to have to see Zhym demonstrate the more intricate playstyles this deck has access to, because I think we're already past the point where he can smoke him down, right? It feels like, even just on turn 4, it feels too late now.
Yeah, we have seen a lot of just kind of curve out and kill you kind of stuff with this Warrior so far. This is very much more the combo-y style of hand, where you have the Battle Rage right from the get-go, and you have all these minions with Risky Skipper as well to be able to guarantee huge turns. So,
right.
And we'll see what Zhym can put together over the coming turns.
And this is where, honestly, you'll get truly tested as a player, because the deck is complex, and have the players had time to really flesh out these strategies against different archetypes as well, not just in theory, you just do this. It's like, well, what if you're against a Demon Hunter? What if you're against a Warlock? What if you're against a Control Warrior? So I'm very interested to watch this and see how Zhym even approaches being this far behind with this combo style deck.
Right.
I wonder if No Hand's phone is like going nuts past week or so. We practice with me.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah,
I would. If I was bringing this deck, I would say No Hands, please. I'll do anything at this point. Just for some tips and coaching.
I wonder whether he did get involved with any particular practice groups. It's probably a good thing to check up on him with, really. One of the very few players right now who has a massive sample size of games with this deck under their belt. Well,
we're going to see the fairly straightforward interaction between the bombs and the Risky Skipper. And that Battle Rage is, if there was ever a card and a play that was going to get Zhym really involved, that was it, I think. Look at the card draw. He's made the board. He's still got threats with the bombs. This is the way he needs it to go.
It's a decent amount of clearing power now with the bombs that he has in play as well, and the extra bomb to come out of the Wrangler. But Hunterace, I think, I said earlier, I think the straightforward game plan of Galakrond is just invoke Galakrond, play Galakrond, Alexstrasza, you kill you. I honestly think, like, the closer you can get to just executing that game plan every game with Galakrond Warlock, the better you're going to do. So if your opponent isn't giving you any reason to do anything else, just go ahead. And you kind of saw that mentality last turn from Hunterace as well, where he diverted from the ooze and just jammed his 5-drop invoke on curve instead that he'd drawn that turn.
And that's always the worry of delaying something like an ooze is, well, does that mean you pigeonhole yourself into playing it the following turn? And I think that's something a lot of players would do. It's, oh, okay, what if I stall and then I ooze? And then they ooze like no matter what. You know what I mean? Like no matter what they draw, no matter what the board looks like, well, I'll have to now. And I think that it requires a certain level of discipline to go, okay, this changed. I'll do something better or something else. Still though, Hunterace on a fairly healthy life total right now with 26. The bombs could have something to say about that, but there's also a fair amount of health on board to soak those bombs. So I think priority number one is for Zhym to get this board gone so that not only do his bombs or can his bombs do a little bit more, but also that Plague of Flames doesn't just ruin his day for almost free for Hunterace.
Right.
Got to make him work for the Plague. There are many cards in Zhym's hand right now. This is just a lot.
Just needs to convert these cards into actual tempo and he will be doing just fine. Does have Korkron Bloodsworn in his hand twice currently, which is an enormous amount of burst damage if he picks up an Inner Rage as well.
For a split second, I was like, is Korkron Bloodsworn a new card? What does that do? Which one's that? And then I realized, like, no, the Korkron and the Bloodsworn. I was like, got you. One thing I will say as well, because we mentioned a bit earlier, is the difference in Warriors, is that Bomb Warrior has a much more straightforward answer to the problem of not smoking someone, right? Because in this matchup, well, draw your cards, Warlock. I'm going to shuffle 18 bombs in your deck.
Sure,
and then you die. So it's one of the benefits that we talk a lot about how good this deck is, and Bomb Warrior is something a few other players, especially in the Asia Pacific region, have taken. But Bomb Warrior does have its benefits too. You just blow them up a lot of the time, so you're just seeing different matchups. The levels go up and down depending on which version you're playing. Zhym? Hovering the Rampage. I don't think you can Rampage your own face, which is what it looked like he was aiming at there. That would be pretty powerful.
He has picked up that Inner Rage, though, which now means if he can make it to 10 mana, he does have enormous burst damage. But he might choose to break that up over a couple of turns instead and sort of set up 2 or 3 turn lethal from this point, just allocating pieces of damage each turn.
Interestingly enough here, the Skipper is just a weird card right now, because all his own minions have 1 health, so he could just trade them instead, if he wanted to clear the board. But he looks like, is he just saying, let's roll?
So he had to get a card out of his hand before he swung the weapon. That's what that sequencing is about. He just was kind of unwilling to commit to which one it is. He's just going to push all the damage and then use the Skipper. Yeah, this is the line I like, for sure. I mean, even now, just with the 1 Inner Rage, he still has Korkron Inner Rage Bloodsworn once available to it.
Yeah.
Like, from now until for the rest of the game, right?
Which is a lot of damage, by the way. It's not like, oh, it's not the full combo, it's nothing. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's 12. It's a lot.
Yeah. Even getting the armor now, which makes him just a little bit safer. Nice board as well. Zhym, I'm actually impressed with that turn. That turn was significantly better than what I probably would have done.
Yeah, very easy to mess up that turn on multiple fronts, I think. But I think, first off, like, mechanically, he looked like he got everything right. But I think more importantly than getting your mechanics right is just having the right, high-level strategical plan in the matchup, which I think is where he's at right now. Just go for base for lots and lots of damage and end the game.
Yeah, right now I'm impressed with not only the damage he's putting forward, but with the damage he has from hand still. He's not exactly, gone all out here. And again, I think more and more I see it is just Battle Rage is just the #1 card in the deck by far, right? Like, Battle Rage just makes or breaks games, I feel.
So Hunterace is going to need some big defense here.
Okay.
None of those say Taunt or Lifesteal Rush.
Oh,
Looking like Hunterace's time is burning out on this game.
Yeah, in a lot of outcomes, that is actually pretty good, in a general game, but not when you're facing down what we can see Zhym has.
Yep.
But 3 beefy demons and 1 just meh one is a pretty solid outcome most of the time.
He had a 46% chance of summoning himself a taunt there and did not end up getting it. And it would have had to have been a decent enough size taunt to be able to wall out the weapon and the armor smith that were going to remain on board to stop this damage coming through for lethal anyway.
Even the brute pickup would have helped to smash through the taunt as
That's
well
true.
there, so it would have been very
true.
convenient, and he was getting close to the end of his deck. But with that, Zhym moves up to a 2-0 point here against Hunterace, which means he only has to win 1 more game to survive and continue his run through Group A. And if Hunterace loses the next game, he is out. Still got a reasonable amount of points, I would say, just from making the top half of the Swiss anyway and getting through. But still, you really want to just push it as much as you can, especially because who knows, maybe next week in Swiss, Hunterace or any player, doesn't matter about who it is, but you could do well this week and be bottom next week and not even make it to the weekend, which means you've almost lost a whole week's worth of points if you do really badly. So when you do make it to top cut and make it to the weekend, you really want to take that as far as possible to get as many points on the board as you can possibly get.
I think it's worth reminding at this point though to the viewers that this is an ongoing tournament throughout the week in these opening few weeks. So the players who you are seeing on stream today, tomorrow and Sunday have already qualified through a Swiss tournament that happened on the days previously. So any player that makes it to this point has already done better than half the players in their region, right? So it's even important to have the perspective that even if you go out 0-2 once you hit broadcast, in terms of, just holding your head up high, you've still had a pretty middling performance that week. But also in terms of point acquisition for seeding into the groups, you've gained more points than half of the players in your region, which is actually pretty important.
And that should be number 1 priority, because doing that means you get put in Division A, which is the safe one. If you keep doing this, you will be fine. So that is priority number 1. But let's go into it as we go into Zhym versus Hunterace game number 3. Zhym currently leading 2-0 though, and he is going on his, for a second I nearly said Warrior then. I was like, well, that's wrong, but it's going to be Demon Hunter against Hunterace's Warrior. And now these challengers might do a little bit better than they did for Hunterace last time.
They might, yeah. That Armor Smith might have something to say as well in this matchup, because Zhym is, of course, playing the OTK version of the deck and not the tempo version that we've been seeing from most of the other players.
Yeah, and this is something I am and was really excited to watch, is the alterations in playstyle with these combo Demon Hunter lists. Because I'll admit, I'm not an aficionado. I've not been playing 100, 200 games of this combo list. So it interests me greatly when people push and when they try and save and try and go off in one big turn.
Sure. Well, Zhym is looking very much on the push plan right now.
Yeah.
Just the way this game has panned out so far is looking very different to the panouts that we saw previously in Zhym's games, because he's not being pressured immensely quickly in the early game. I think we saw that in both of his other games with this deck so far, where there was so much minion pressure on board that he had to chew through his lifesteal charges way too quickly and then wasn't able to bounce back in the late game. I will say that's not necessarily the biggest concern in this matchup. I think perhaps the bigger concern in this matchup is just how much health they're able to gain to pull themselves out of range of your OTK. But still, giving yourself time to be able to do things efficiently and on your own terms is still going to be very important.
Very interesting. It's so tough, that, I think. That, on the surface level, looks like, oh, did you really need to use a charge of your weapon on a 1-3? But it's a damaged 1-3, which means it's a Battle Rage activator, it's a Rampage activator. It can be activated with Bloodswan Mercenary. It helps Brute. So the problem is, the minion itself sucks, but the fact it is damaged enables the whole deck, which is why, although painful, I think the swing was correct there. It just feels bad. if you use
It does, yeah. And I was talking earlier about how, No Hands always shows respect for players that, seemingly overcommit to kill his early minions, is because, he understands as the innovator of the deck how important it is just to have any minion on board, because any minion can be used as a leverage point for Risky Skipper and Battle Rage and Rampage and Bloodsworn Mercenary and all those things you were talking about. So keeping board clear wherever possible, very important. But now you see Zhym saying, okay, this second charge of my weapon is a lot more important than the first charge of my weapon.
Yes.
And swinging it here wouldn't clear the board anyway, so there's no reason to do so, because even if I kill the 1-2, the 1-3 is still there for Hunterace to play with all his fancy effects on the following turn.
Yeah, and to no real surprise, we see the Risky Skipper come down with the Armor Smith Best Buds. And Hunterace is going to
Mercenary.
go off.
Yep.
He can even
Bloodsworn
Rampage
Mercenary.
his Risky Skipper, right? Not now, but if it lives. Well, I guess it won't live. Jeez.
Fancy playing some Inner Rages there, Hunterace, for 2 more armor, or are you chilling? I think he's chilling.
I like the chilling. He's on 32. I think that's
He is a
pretty
little
good.
bit on 32. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's okay. So I think that's fine. He's doing alright. And now Zhym pretty much just needs to draw Skull, because otherwise he ain't getting there. Oh, I guess he's got 1 turn, right? Because he can just deal with the Armor Smiths this turn.
Yeah, I-beam.
Yeah, I guess that's fine. I guess next turn he needs to draw Skull, because he's also just going to get beat up in a minute. Do you go for the
Gonna
Immolate?
hold on.
I don't think you go Immolate, right? Oh, he is. Okay, that surprises me.
So he chooses to hold on to the cheap I-beam here, or the second copy of I-beam here, presumably, just so he can have another activator for Kel'Thas in hand. If he's able to pop off next turn, I guess playing exactly to a Skull out, potentially. He didn't spend all of his mana that turn anyway, so the amount of mana he paid for his I-beam actually just really didn't matter in that scenario.
Yeah. I just wonder if the Immolation Aura was a bit overkill.
Again, it was like 3 damage minions in play, right? Like, I think it just made sense to get rid of them.
I guess, but for me, Hunterace has a million cards anyway. And if he Blood Swans a 1-1, Risky Skipper's down, so that would have been a problem. Because if you play a minion, all the minions on board died anyway.
We stopped him from playing a 6-8 that turn, right? Which feels pretty important.
I guess, yeah. I guess it's just another, you do it, but you feel bad about it.
Yeah, I think bottom line, Zhym's position kind of sucks right now, and everything that he could have done would feel bad because all of his plays are bad because he's in a terrible position, Like, he's just kind of stuck.
I wonder now if we're going to see Hunterace prioritize armor up, or if he thinks this is more than enough.
I think he's had quite enough of this game and would like to play the next one. Thank you very much. He's just going to get over it.
Yeah, I genuinely think there's a question, right? Because as I mentioned earlier, for me, it's very much a learning process to how the players approach the matchups.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things like, is an egg worth more than armor? I don't know. It's interesting to find out, I guess. There's Hunterace, which, he's not a Skull of Gul'dan, but it's close.
Is it? In what way is it close, Raven?
Power level in general.
Ah, okay.
Ha! Doesn't draw cards, but it kills your opponent.
Yeah, not from 33,
Yeah,
though.
okay, not this opponent, just generally your opponent.
Not looked
Actually-
good so far for the OTK deck from Zhym's side.
I'm just double checking, I'm pretty sure he is. Yeah, he is playing Zephyrus.
Zhym? Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to triple check just to make sure. I've seen a lot of different builds. So,
Yep.
I mean, he's still got 17 cards in his deck, which feels bad at this point. It's the combo Demon Hunter.
Yep.
But Skull into stuff is still the out. Whether Hunterace is giving him time for that, well, no, he isn't.
Yep.
God, that card's so good. I didn't even know until I saw this deck list, not this one from Hunterace, that No Hand started playing it, that was a card. How bad's that? It just flew straight past me.
Really?
Yeah, I thought, as Hunterace takes the victory there over Zhym, not too much of a surprise based on how that game was going, but I thought the Brute, for some reason, was the taunt that gains armor when it dies based off its attack.
Oh.
So when I saw the
play
card,
that card in this deck.
I saw the card. I was like, look, No Hands builds some good decks, and I'm no one to question, but this looks weird. And then I looked at the card, looked at it in my client, and was like, oh, this is insane. Never mind, I'm stupid, as I often am. But Hunterace,
it's just a big Mogu Flesh Shaper.
Yeah,
like it's just twice the size naturally. Like it's insane.
So how often will my minions be damaged with this deck? Quite.
Literally always, yeah.
So Hunterace isn't going to be, completely cleaned out here, 3-0 versus Zhym. He is fighting back, gets a win with the Warrior, which means he does have his Warlock and Demon Hunter left. But again, it's just a tough one. Zhym, with his combo, Demon Hunter did not draw that well that time. He did have the Kel'Thas, but he didn't have much else at all. And maybe it's going to go better for him this time, because I do feel that the combo Demon Hunter is a deck that can really just beat anything. It doesn't. You have the capability to beat your opponent no matter almost what health they're on, what their board looks like. It just doesn't matter with the good draws, right? You just win. Whereas some decks, even with their best draws, can't beat certain outs from your opponent.
Yeah, we haven't really seen that so far from Zhym, though. I think he's had, at the best of times, he's had kind of awkward draws. He's had a situation where, like, even the games where he won, I think he had to get out of awkward positions where, like, double Inner Demon was on the left-hand side of his hand, right, and it just so happened that it lined up perfectly for the burst damage. So he hasn't really had one of the, like, super smooth draws for him panning out yet.
Well, here we go, and we're going to continue with the questions, I guess, of the tempo versus the combo, and at least how they match up versus each other, because Hunterace is on the bottom, and he is playing the tempo Demon Hunter. Pretty standard list, although I say standard list, there's about 800 tempo Demon Hunter lists, but he's playing the lower curve, none of the 7-cost demons or 6-cost demons, and he's playing the double Quest Adventurers, which is a list I very much like. I feel like Quest Adventurer does the thing that Demon Hunter actually struggles to do, which is make a big boy, whereas Zhym is playing the combo list, and I feel a lot does rely on this Quest Adventure if he gets to it, because if you make a big one, I'm not sure how Zhym actually kills it.
Yeah, I'm curious now with the nerf to Felwing that's coming up, like whether we'll see a lot more of the questing build, because I was talking about before, like Felwing goes some way to play around small AoE in this deck, just by nature of having 3 health instead of 2, when that's not a possibility anymore, because it's just going to have 2 health like everything else. I wonder whether we might see a mass migration over to the Questing Adventurer version instead.
Yep, and as you can see on the screen, there seems to be one of the players is disconnected, so it looks like it might be Hunterace, but we have a reconnect feature, so we'll just wait till they've got internet again, or they can connect again, and we can continue exactly where we left off. I don't miss those days, Subtle. I don't miss those days of disconnects forcing a regame. Those were unfun. But yeah, in terms of the matchups and the nerfs, we can touch on a little bit now. I wonder if because there are decks that run both the Felwings and then and the Adventure. So I wonder if like the Felwings ever get dropped as we're back in the game, and then they play like the double Silence, double Mana Burn. Because the Silence and the Mana Burn are great cards, but I feel there isn't always the space for them, and especially the tempo list. But if you're playing Questins, well, the Silence draws a card half the time or whatever. The Mana Burn's just fantastic in general, I think. So suddenly, does that just give it space for Questing to actually become more consistent?
That's a good question. I mean, I think Mana Burn and Questing go together very naturally, right? Because not only is it a cheap card that you can play alongside your Questing to buff it up, also on the turn you play Questing, you play Mana Burn with it, and then you're also saying to your opponent, yeah, this one turn where you have to kill my Questing or you explode instantly, you're going to have less mana to be able to do that. So I do think that's a really strong pairing together.
So we are back in the game, as mentioned. Nothing was lost apart from a few seconds, which is no problem at all. But right now there is an I-beam and there is a skull on the far left of Zhym's hand. So he has it. He has access. Does he have the time, though, is the question. And I think with Hunterace's hand, yes, is the answer to that.
Certainly looking that way. It's not the most explosive high-pressure start here for Hunterace. It's another one of those kind of mid-rangey draws where he has a really nice Altruis swing turn cooking, but he's against a minion that he doesn't really need to have swing turns against because they're not going to win the board. And then he has kind of that Metamorphosis burst damage mid-game plan as well, but he's really missing out on a lot of the just consistent minion pressure that he needs. Would really love that Questing Adventurer that we've been talking about to go along with this hand, honestly.
Yeah, and the frustration is as well, let's just say Hunterace says, oh, my hand's kind of rubbish. I'm just going to go off with Altruis, hope he lives, and just burst, right? Just do some damage. Well, there's not been any Eldrazi Warblades from Zhym, which means if he did that, and then Zhym just swings once with some buffs and heals it all, then it's a complete waste, right? Apart from maybe forcing him to play cards. So it's not as if, like in some other matchups where heal isn't as relevant, you can just say, actually, I'll cash in Altruis now and just go off while I can, and then hopefully I'll get to my draw cards next. Whereas this, I just don't think you can do it, because the second Zhym just heals, you're like, wow, his heal just destroyed 6 of my cards or something.
Right.
I was like, wow, this is insane.
Yeah, I was just about to say, it might be one of those sad draw for one occasions, and Hunterace is kind of mulling that over right now as well.
I'm going to suggest something crazy. Is it ever coin Metamorphosis? Is that too wild?
Maybe.
Is that too wild? It just... It
and then you're looking
now.
at second slice into Spectral Sight on the following turn, outcasted from the left. Yeah, I can see the reasoning behind that for sure. Looks like Hunterace has come around to it as well.
Sorry, Hunterace, if you want free coaching, let me know, mate.
Wow, Hunterace confirmed taking advice from Raven this turn. Wow.
I'll make time for some coaching later, Hunterace, don't worry, mate. Yeah, so the idea behind this, like, no, all fooling around gone, is it's a unfun turn now, but potentially just unlocks the deck with the ability to just draw more cards. Because Hunterace, honestly, as you mentioned, is only really a few cards away. The questing or just anything to apply some sort of deeper pressure to actually get something cooking here. But if he just played it slow again and drew one card, well, he still has the Warglaze of Azzinoth to try and work in somewhere. He would still have Metamorphosis. That's 10 mana in 2 cards. Like, there's so much to spend that I think it would have been wasted otherwise, him spending his whole turn like drawing a card.
Yeah. No, that all makes sense. I don't know what specific outs he could have potentially hit. I guess it's like questing exactly if he ripped the draw for one last turn exactly. Right? And then he could... Wait, no, he wouldn't even be able... Like, he'd have to
he couldn't go off. He couldn't go off.
You'd have to coin, then questing, then play the second... Yeah, it's still not that good, is it?
No. Or you just wait, right? And you do it this turn, but even then it's... Well, that's still then delayed. Oh, Zhym saying, I will heal no matter what.
I mean, that's just outcast, right? Like, he's just getting rid of that card from the far left of his hand because he has 6 mana next turn. He just wants to play Skull. That's it. Just had to play the card, so he played it.
Zhym just with a skull in each hand. And I was just like, right, which one?
I've never actually thought of it in those terms before.
What?
Like, one is your left hand and one is your right hand. I've just never, like, visualized it.
Oh, really?
Interesting, yeah.
Burn away to ash.
I actually love Mana Burn as a card, honestly. It's so sick.
Do you? You just like messing with your opponents that badly.
Well, I like it because when you're good with it, you're good with it. You know what I mean? Like, you can really impact the game. It's not a card you just play. If you just play it, it's bad, right? Whereas if you know your timings, if you're judging it well, maybe some hand reading and so on, you can really win games off the back of that card, which the card might be a bit too powerful. It might work too many times. You know what I mean? It might like just win your games too often. I don't know. But I think if anything that rewards you actually having a good game sense is a good card in my book.
Okay. I think, you know, that was a good usage from Hunterace. I think that was a very, like, entry-level one, if you want to look at it that way. I'm sure most of you could have figured that out. Hunterace saw Zhym throw away a card, essentially, from the left of his hand. Hunterace can see, sight unseen, what that means, that there is now a skull on the far left of his hand. So there's a skull that he wants to play, so he mana burn to prevent that. Zhym just ripped a mana burn right back at him.
Which is a problem, actually. Have you played much questing yourself, Sol?
I played about 5 or 6 games with it and really didn't get on with it and then took it out again.
Because you have not lived until you felt the rush of playing questing, altruist, then popping off.
Naturalizing your own adrenaline.
But honestly, when you question altruist and then go, it's so sick.
I did actually get to do that.
Oh, did you? Okay, good. I'm glad you had that life
Yeah,
experience at least.
Yeah. No, we good.
Okay. And now this is the issue. The blades are there. Hunterace has 2 oozes in his deck, but none in his hands.
I completely forgot about that.
So he knows he has the ability to kill this weapon, but just not yet.
Disgusting. Yeah.
And it's a big deal because this is why Hunterace, I mean, maybe obviously, but is going, okay, I'll build the board a bit now because there's no point trying to force face damage because he'll heal. So he needs to almost wait for the ooze or present so much damage that the heal's not good enough.
Right.
2 mana Metamorphosis, though, is going to say goodbye to that questing adventurer.
Zephyrus not active yet?
Nope.
Alright, Friday.
Come on, that was on purpose.
I know. Blood Mage, Immolation Aura, unfortunately, does not work quite the way you would like it to. So it is looking most likely to just be a Metamorphosis turn, as Raven was saying.
I like it. Don't get too fancy with this turn. I feel like Zhym should have an inkling that Hunterace is kind of just piecing together what he can, because that question wasn't exactly, big, was it? So he didn't draw a ton of cards, so on, so on. So, oh, that's a bad draw as well. Yeah, Hunterace, a slap of his own face there as he draws Kane and not able to get that skull off in any good way. So I think, yeah, if Zhym just plays it calm and cool, he's in a very good spot in this game.
Yeah, just picture the difference between that draw and drawing ooze here instead, for example.
Oh, jeez. Yes, that's called, the difference is who wins the game, Subtle.
Yeah.
Just gonna have to do it. He needs some stuff. He wants to draw the ooze. It's a good effort drawing 3, and he misses. 8 cards left. 2 of them are ooze.
2 oozes, bottom 8, yeah. Zhym does have the 2 Inner Demons stacked up in hand, but does not have enough activators for his Kel'Thas just yet to be able to get those over the line.
I don't even think he needs to now, right? He just one in the demon face, one in the demon face, go.
Yep. He has the damage over time, just saying he can't do it all in one go here, but weaving one in here with the watermelon to the face, he should be good.
I forgot he had the second met charge as well.
We
So.
all have demons.
And unless Hunterace pulls something out of the bag here, which I don't even think Hunterace can do.
He draws ooze here every single time.
Oh!
Thank you.
Slap in the face. You knew that from his camera, didn't you?
No.
Don't lie to me, Sal. Don't lie to me.
No.
Well, he looked disappointed on his webcam.
That's
He pointed at
called
the camera.
playing the odds. That was 1 in 4. If it works, I'm a genius. If it doesn't, no one remembers. You always make that call. Every single time.
Hunterace looking pretty frustrated there. Can't blame him, but also not much he can do right now. And what would you say, Sol? It's extremely likely he is dead next turn.
What, like, from Hunterace's perspective?
No, I mean, like, as a combo deck, how much burst damage from hand do they have after seeing one in a demon? You know what I mean, right? And the Metamorphosis is gone.
Like, if they have second in a demon, you're dead. If they have Zephyrus and it's active with 8 cards left in their deck, you're dead. If they
Twin
have
Slice.
Altruist in your hand, they're dead. Like,
So it's likely
you are
then.
dead. Yeah, extremely likely.
That was my point. I'm just, maybe not everyone knows the deck that well, Sol.
That's fine. That's fine. I don't find you as frustrating as it sounds like I do when I respond to your question.
I don't know whether to be glad about that, as Zhym takes the win over Hunterace, and let's not talk about us, let's talk about the players. Very impressed. One of the things I said to you at the start of the show, and even before the show even started, was I am very interested to see how the new blood performs. And honestly, Zhym, newest GM, as we had Falcane pretty much confirmed a while back, but Zhym coming in, not only making it through top half of Swiss to get to the weekend, now he's surviving in the groups, still got to play ties, but took down Hunterace. He's doing very well and showing that, no luck involved, really. He's got here on his own merit, and he's having a fantastic start to his first week as a Grandmaster.
Yeah. And once again, for those of you just tuning in for the broadcast, which, you all are, because this is our first day of broadcast, Hunterace did not just 0-2 out of the tournament this week. He went 4-3 in a Swiss qualifier for this period. So he was 4-3, he qualified through the Swiss. He's just gone 0-2 essentially in his 2 broadcast games in his group. He's going to be our first player eliminated, unfortunately. But again, focus on the winner here. And I think you're absolutely right to say that how these new French players are going to do is a big talking point, especially with how crazy France has been going in the Hearthstone scene recently, and Zhym off to a pretty solid start so far.
Yeah, I agree. I'm looking forward to seeing what Falcane can do as well. As I think we're expecting great things from both of them. But yeah, I think the important thing to know, if you're just still a little bit confused about the format and how the next few weeks are going to run, as soon as we post the results for the first week, it'll just snap in, trust me. Yeah, you'll understand and how everything lays out. But this is Group A that we're going to finish up today with one more match for you guys. We have Group B coming up tomorrow, and then the 2 winners that you see, Ball Control plus TBD, which will be Tights or Zhym. Those 2 winners, and then the same again from Group B, will play out on Sunday to decide the final, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. So we get to flesh out the whole of the group, and then guess what? Next week, we're going to do it all over again. It's going to start from fresh, although the points totals that each player have earned will add together for 3 weeks to give the overall points total for the players. But next up, we've got Tice versus Zhym, and Zhym now on the receiving end